Friends, we are discussing the course of Fundamental of Investments. In this course, we are the very first chapter or unit. If you are a student, from the student point of view, I will say in your syllabus will be the basic investment, right? Basics of investment. In this basics of investment topic, in my previous lecture on it, I told about what is investment, what is financial investment, what is real investment, what are the broad objectives of investment. Now in this lecture, I will be talking about other aspects of basic of investments. Like the very first thing is, what are the factors affecting investment? I have jotted down a few points that these can be the basic factors. These are the broad factors which affects your investment. Let me discuss one by one. One is return. I would say the important factor which affects our investment is return. When I am saying the important, it doesn't mean that it is the only factor which affects investment, but it is very important factor affecting your investment decision. Why do you make investments? Why do you sacrifice your present consumption? As I said in the previous lecture, that investment means sacrificing of the present consumption for creating a future income, right? That is, you invest in some financial assets or real assets so that these assets can create some income for you, and the value of these assets grows and you get income. That is what investment means. Productive. You spend in some productive assets which can grow some income, which can create some income, and which can grow in terms of value. It may be both, it may be either of the two, right? So that is what investment means. So the very idea of investment is that you must get a return out of it. Return may be in two forms. Return may be a regular return in form of income, like when we invest in shares, we get dividend income, or company may declare dividend if it is a profitable company, right? Or there may be capital appreciation. The share you buy, that price of that share goes up in the market, right? While you make investment, the price goes up, and when you sell it in the market, you get enhanced price. That is, if I purchase a share at 50 rupees, at the time of my selling it, if it grows to 60 rupees, it means I get capital appreciation, apart from the regular dividend income which I have been getting while investing in this share. So you get return in the two forms. And when I talk of return, here itself I will talk that there are two types of return which I can say. One is called risk-free return, and the other is called the return which you get more than the risk-free return. So, say for example, treasury bills, government bonds. When I invest in government bonds, normally the past record of the Government of India is that it has never failed to pay its obligations, right? So, if the government treasury bills are giving me 5.5% interest or 5% interest, I will say this is risk-free return, right? And I am not investing in the treasury bills, rather I am investing in a company which has issued fixed deposit. Companies can also, public limited companies also do issues, or many of the companies do issue fixed deposits. And that company is offering me 8% return. So 5% or 5.5% return which I am getting from treasury bills, it is a risk-free return. The 3% additional return which I am getting on this company's fixed deposit is the return for my taking risk, right? So this is return against the risk which I am taking. Although let me caution here that even no investment is risk free. The element of risk may be very low. Like as I said, Government of India has never failed in the past to pay its obligation. But there are countries in this world which have failed to pay its obligation, right? So nothing is free, nothing is risk free. But by and large, when we say in the common parlance, we say the government bonds, treasury bills, these are risk free. So when you get return in two forms. One is risk free return, other is the additional return which you are getting is for the risk which you are taking. And friends, risk and return go hand in hand. I will be talking this point in detail. So now let me stick to myself to return only. So return is the motivating force and the major objective in the investment process. Means whenever you make investment, the major idea is you must get some return. Return means some appreciation, some income out of it. It is usually in the form of interest on debentures, dividend on shares, etc. Investors always prefer to earn stable returns with minimum risk. Whenever you make investment, friends, you always like that you get maximum return. I will not say only the stable return, you get maximum return with minimum risk. Different securities offer different returns depending on the time horizon and the level of risk. Let me stick this at this point to risk and return. I am saying objective of any investment can be that getting maximum return and with the minimum degree of risk. Or put it this way, with a given degree of risk, you want to earn maximum return. When I am saying given degree of risk means because risk affordability of different individuals varies. Some people say for example, old age people. The old age people who do not have any regular income means who do not have a regular income, they are not in the job, they are not in the business, right? So they are not earning from where they are getting a regular flow of income. They would like that they should make investment in such securities which gives them the return with a minimum degree of risk, because their first objective is preservance of their capital. Their capital must not be depreciated at least. If not appreciated, it does not depreciate. With this in mind, they make investment. So these people prefer to make investment in banks fixed deposit, provident fund, PPF, right, or national savings security, post office savings, which gives them a regular income because the element of risk is minimum. From that risk level, I am saying risk free return, right? With this risk free return, they see where they can get maximum return, whether the post office fixed deposit will give them higher return or the bank fixed deposit will give them higher return. So with the given level of risk, they would prefer to make investment so that with this risk level, they maximize their return. Or a person who is young, who is having a regular income from his salary, from other source, he is having a business which is giving them a reasonable level of income, they can take higher level of risk. So they may invest in securities, in assets which gives them higher return. They say even if their asset is risky, as I said, risk and return go hand in hand. Higher is the risk, higher is the return. Lower is the risk, lower is the return, right? So they may invest, they may tend to invest in those securities which gives them higher return even if the risk element is high, like for example shares. The other factor which affects investment is liquidity. Friends, liquidity is also very important. What we mean by liquidity? Liquidity means the ease with which we can convert an asset into cash with little risk of loss of capital. I am repeating what I said. Liquidity means the ease with which you can convert the asset into cash. When I am saying means ease, it also means that with less expense. When you are converting an asset into cash, there is a minimum expense involved in converting that asset into cash, and the risk of loss of capital is also low, so that asset is highly liquid. Investment in equity share mutual funds are considered highly liquid. As we know, cash is perfectly liquid. Bank deposit in the saving account is almost, I would say, perfectly liquid, right? Although the bank also put certain number of transactions which you can make from your saving funds account, right? So you cannot like businessmen make issued 30, 40, 50 checks every day, or 10, 15 checks every day. With a small business, 5, 6 checks every day. The banker will say, please open current account instead of saving fund account, right? Because In the saving fund account, there is a limit in which number of times you can withdraw in a time period. But still I would say saving fund for an individual don't withdraw quite often. They withdraw only 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 10 times in a month, right? So they are reasonably liquid. So I would say saving fund, the depository of saving fund is liquid because it doesn't involve any cost and there is no risk of loss of capital. If I am presuming you are investing in a commercial bank which is quite safe in India, right? So there is a less of risk of the capital, plus with no cost you can withdraw. I will say it is a liquid asset. On the other hand, if you invest in real estate, you invest in a commercial property, right? So when you want to convert it into cash, there is a lot of brokerage involved in selling these assets, right? The registry charges, the various other government formalities are there. For that you have to incur quite huge cost. So there is a cost involved in converting cash. And today if I want to sell a commercial property, it's not that within a day or so I will be able to sell it. So comparatively, although it is sellable, it's a good property, but still as compared to bonds, as compared to share, as compared to the deposits in the bank, right, saving account especially, is more liquid as compared to real estate, because the cost involved is high and you cannot anytime you cannot convert it. On the other hand, in the stock market, if you invest in a share of a good company, I'm not saying even bad companies that don't trade on a day-to-day basis, right? If you invest in a good company share, then any day when the market is open, you can sell it in the share in the stock market, and next day or at the most next day you get cash out of it. So this is called liquidity, right? So liquidity means basically the ease with which you can convert in an asset with lesser degree of risk and lesser cost involved. So asset is called more liquid if it is the case. So therefore, while investing in any security, one need to analyze the liquidity levels in mind, right? Thirdly, which is again a very, very important factor, risk. I just said while talking of the return that risk and return go hand in hand, right? What is risk? I would say variability of return is called risk. Let me take one example first. If you deposit in a fixed deposit in a bank offers you 5% rate of interest. So there is no variability in this, and I am presuming that Indian banks, especially the commercial banks, PSU banks and good banks, right, or even in the private sector, top private sector banks are reasonably risk free, means they are reasonably safe and sound. There your investment is not going to they are not going to be default in making their payment, right? So if the bank is offering you 5% interest, the risk element is minimal, almost negligible, I will say, right? Because there is no variability, there is no risk that if the bank has promised to give you 5% interest, right, so they are in all probability they will give you 5% interest. So the risk is low. On the other hand, if you invest in shares, many of the people invest in shares not only for capital appreciation but for dividend income also. This dividend income keeps on fluctuating. If the company does well, it gives higher rate of dividend. If the company is not able to do well, it doesn't give dividend at all, or it gives dividend at a lower rate. So there is a variability in the return in form of dividend. Same is the case of the price value of the share. The value of the share keeps on fluctuating in the market, depending on the market, depending on the performance of the company. So there is a high degree of risk involved. So I am saying risk is defined as variability in expected return, right? So risk measures uncertainty of receiving returns according to the expectations of investor, right? So we say risk is measured in terms of standard deviation of the expected returns, right? It is a measurement. Risk can be measured by standard deviation of expected return is the risk of that security. So risk is categorized in two parts: safety of principal and stability of return. Safety of principal means that there are certain investments where even the principal amount keeps on fluctuating. If you invest in the public provident fund or provident fund, your principal amount is almost safe. I will say almost, when I am using the word almost, or risk is negligible, what it means is that provident fund in India is being guaranteed by the government of India, right? So there is a reasonable security of that investment. You are not going to lose the principal amount. When you make a deposit in the bank, right? When you make the deposit in the saving fund account, if it is a sound bank, right? It's a government bank, right? Or even for that matter, top private sector banks, the principal amount is reasonably safe. So there is a safety of principal, risk is minimal. And the other thing is stability of return. If the return is fluctuating, it means there is a high degree of risk. If the return is stable, right, so it means the risk level is low. So the risk is categorized in two parts as far as the principal amount is concerned and the risk return amount is concerned. So an investor would like to invest in those securities where the principal amount is safe and earns stable return on investment. Instead of word stable, I may also use the word reasonable return on investment, right, depending on the risk profile. Now the other factor is safety of capital and appreciation. This point is well connected with the risk factor, right? That when you make investment, you keep in mind that your investment should be safe and you get reasonable appreciation in it. While talking of the risk, I gave a few examples. The same type of example I can give here also. Like for example, if you invest in a real estate, right? If you invest, let me take some other example. If you invest, say, in gold, if you invest in Bitcoin, last year the Bitcoin price was 5,000 rupees a dollar, $5,000. Today the Bitcoin price is 50,000 rupees. A week back it was 50,000 rupees. Today it is less than 50,000, say $46,000. So the person who has invested last week, and if you want to sell today, the value of his principal amount will fall if you want to sell it. So the safety of capital is less. So when you make investment, you keep in mind that whether your capital is safe, whether you are ready to take the risk where your capital, the principal amount of your capital also keeps on fluctuating. If you are having that risk capacity, you will invest in those risky investments. Otherwise, you will not invest in those risky capital assets where even the capital amount keeps on fluctuating. There are hundreds of companies which over a period of time vanish from the stock market, right? Means those people who have invested in those companies, those people who do invest in those companies, right, their capital becomes zero or their capital depreciate to a great extent. On the other hand, there are companies which has created multiple wealth for its shareholders, right? There are companies, if I take a few example, Indian example, companies like Infosys, company like TCS, company like Reliance Industries, company like Nestle, they have created an enormous amount of wealth for their shareholders. Means the people who have invested some 10 years, 15 years back in the shares of these companies which I have just named, the price of those shares have gone up substantially, many fold. I am not telling you the exact figure because you will find it very surprising also. It has increases many fold, I am saying, right? So the capital has gone up, but certain investors who are not ready to take high risk, they want their capital should be remain safe. For those investors, I would say investment in banks means deposit in the bank, saving, fixed deposit, national saving certificates, Kisan Vikas Patra, or I would say public provident fund. These are the safe investments where the capital doesn't fall. So the factor which you affect investment is, we want that the capital should be safe and appreciation. Not only it should be safe, but if it appreciate also apart from the regular income, it will be added advantage for it, right? So there are certain investments which not only gives regular income but which appreciate also. Like again, now I will take the example of real estate. Real estate, it may give you a regular rental income, plus the value of the real asset can also be increased, right? So it will give you good appreciation. The people who have invested in a metro cities in like Delhi, Madras, Chennai, Mumbai some 10-15 years back or 20 years back, the value of that real asset has appreciated many-fold, right? So it gives you capital appreciation also. So what you want is, you want your capital should be safe and appreciated. At the same point of time, in the same length of discussion, I may also say that there are certain real assets, real estate investments which depreciate also. Supposing something happens, right? So then it is not necessary that real estate will always appreciate. It may fall, the value of that, if you have purchased at a very high price when the property market is very high, at that point of time if you have made investment, then the property value may fall also. So you have to keep in mind. And these days the rating agencies do rate the different investments. They give you, like say for example, if you are investing in a bond, AAA rating bonds are considered to be very safe investment, right? AA, A, B, I mean different ratings are being given. We'll discuss some other time of these rating agencies. But I will say credit rating agencies do rate all the financial investments. Tax aspect of investment. Friends, this is also very important, that while you make investments, you keep in mind what is the tax aspect of investment. It all depends on your income level. If a person whose income is tax free, Government of India, in every budget, Government of India declares that up till which level of income the income is tax free, right? So if your income is below that level, then the tax aspect of your investment is immaterial. But if you are in a high tax bracket, supposing a person is in the highest tax bracket, I am talking of individuals. At present in India, the highest tax rate is say 30%. I am not talking of HNIs, I am talking of for HNIs, high net worth of individual, tax rate is as high as 40 to 42%, right? So suppose you are an HNI, high net worth individual, and your tax rate is 40%, 42%, right? So if this is the case, then every income which you, the income which you earn, there are certain incomes which you earn which are taxable. There are certain incomes which are not taxable or which are taxable at a lower rate of interest, low rate of tax. Like what I have written here is public provident fund. If you invest in the public provident fund to the extent of 1,50,000 rupees, right, it will be not taxed at all. If you invest in the national savings certificate up to X amount, it will not tax at all. If you invest in shares and if you hold that share for more than a year, the tax rate is long-term capital gain is only 10%. If you buy a share and sell the share in less than 1 year, tax rate is 15%. Friends, I am presuming your regular income is taxable at a rate of 30%. If suppose, I may take my own example, I say I am in a 30% tax bracket, and if I buy some shares and sell those shares after a year, on this capital gain I am supposed to pay only 10% tax. On the other hand, my bank fixed deposits give me a 50,000 rupees interest per annum. On this 50,000 rupees, I am supposed to pay 30% tax because my income is in 30% tax bracket. Whole of my income will be added in my total income and it will be taxed accordingly. So friends, while you make investment, you always keep in mind that what are the tax aspects of your investment. That is, at what rate these investments are taxable, right? There are certain investments which are tax free, right? There are certain investments which are taxed at a lower rate. There are certain investments which are included in your income and you are being taxed as per your tax bracket, the tax bracket in which you fall, in which that individual falls. So while making investment, what will be the implications of tax you must keep in mind, right? So I'll say tax-free rate. Suppose I earn 10,000 rupees, right? And on this I have to pay 30% tax. So my effective return will be not 10%, my effective return will be only 7% because I am supposed to pay 30% tax on my income. The other important factor is investment horizon, the period for which you are making investment. Because if your investment horizon is for short duration, you make different investments. If your tax horizon, if your investment horizon is for a longer period of time, like say many times in this discussion, in this lecture I have talked about public provident fund. PPF is being opened for 15 years, right? So once you make investment, your PPF will mature after 15 years. The bank fixed deposits which you make, it may be for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And if you withdraw the money with less than this period, there may be some penalty that may be imposed by the bank. So while making investment, we must take into account what is our investment horizon, what is the period of our investment horizon. Are we investing for a very long period of time? Are we investing for a short duration of time? Depending on that, we should make our investment decision. And very other important point is, one of the important point is hedge against inflation. Hedge against inflation means, in the beginning of this lecture, I said, while you make investment, your objective is that your investment should grow. Yeah? It should give you a higher rate of return, you should grow. Supposing I am investing in a bank fixed deposit which gives me 5% return, and if inflation in the country is more than 5%, what is my real return? Because the value of money has an inverse relationship with inflation. Friends, please try to understand this point. I am saying investment which you make should hedge against inflation. That is, your real return should be more than what you are investing. Fine? Means your real return, or I would say your nominal return, not real, your nominal return should be more than the inflation rate. Right? So that will give you real return. If 5% is the return and the inflation is 4%, it means my real return is only 1%. Right? So friends, so these are the factors which you must keep in mind while making investment. I said hedge against inflation, investment horizon, tax aspects, safety of capital and appreciation, risk and liquidity and return. So these are the factors which affect your investment. While making investment, an investor should keep in mind these factors. So thank you very much for today.